During the transitional period of the world's evolution towards mass digitization and seemingly unlimited connection, why were so many Japanese people feeling disconnected? Even to this day, there is a loneliness epidemic infecting not only Japan, but also most of the world. In the 90s and into the early aughts, the internet provided people the ability to connect through online chat rooms and gain access to virtually any kind of information that a person can think of. This led to people having the ability to approach community in a way that was completely different than how it was thought of before. Though, arguably, mainstream media is still trying to catch up to how to realistically depict society's partnership with the online world. Several indie Japanese films and other forms of media got pretty close while exploring the subject matter or themes adjacent to it. Starting in 1989, Japan entered the Heisei era with the death of former Emperor Hirohito. During this time, the country as well as the rest of the world was experiencing a technological revolution. The computer, home televisions, and other entertainment devices, and the connection to the internet caused an enormous shift in the importance of evolving into a digital era. As the Heisei period went on, it became clear that technological advances were not going to slow down anytime soon. Additionally, people began to seek comfort in their connections to the digital world. During this time of extreme economic boom, Japanese pop culture began to make its way to the West, with the popularity of anime, manga, television, and films. Unfortunately, though, this boom eventually came to an end. By 1992, the stock market was unable to maintain its previous development levels. The yen deflated in value, and many companies and banks were unable to bounce back after developing crippling debt. Thus, the lost decade began, but technology continued to evolve. In his 1977 essay, Prometheus as Performer, Iha said, "We need to understand that 500 years of humanism may be coming to an end, as humanism transforms itself into something one must helplessly call posthumanism." The definition of posthuman is complicated. It found its roots in science fiction and contemporary art during the 20th century, when technology began to rapidly advance. In a philosophical sense, many believe that being posthuman means to exist beyond the realm of physicality, and to merge with what is considered beyond human. With the rise of internet culture during the 90s and early aughts, posthumanism became a hot topic for society, even if they did not necessarily know the name for it. Scholars like N. Catherine Hales sought to explore its relevance through questioning exactly what kinds of shifts in reality were taking place during such a rapid advancement. At one point in her novel, How We Became Posthuman, Virtual Bodies in Cybernetics, Literature, and Informatics, she argues that humans may enter semiotic relationships with machines, but they cannot be completely identified with them. So how does all of this relate back to the start of a loneliness epidemic in modern-day Japan and a few indie films from the Heisei period? The 2001 film All About Lily Shushu, directed by Shunji Iwai, portrays the everyday lives of Japanese teenagers as well as their love of fictional singer Lily Shushu. While most of the film takes place in the in-universe diegetic world, a good portion of the plot points, context, and interconnection happen in various internet chat rooms dedicated to Lily. To film critic and editor Andrew O'Heir, Shunji Iwai made one of the first complaints about modern culture, saying that as it purports to bring people together, it actually keeps them separate. Throughout the film, Lily herself is credited to have gained a godlike connection to the ether through her music. The ether in this context means to exist within a realm beyond or in between physical matter that can be used to communicate from place to place, much like a radio or internet signal. On her in-film websites, her fans believe that they too can access the ether by connecting to Lily through her music and online presence, though it is never officially stated if she directly interacts with fans either on the internet or in person. In the same year, Kiyoshi Kurosawa released his cult classic horror film Pulse, or Cairo, which translates to circuit. This film follows a string of mysterious deaths that all tie back to spirits using the internet to try and invade the human world. Like All About Lily Shushu, most of the conflict builds off of what happens in the digital world. Both stories treat the digital world as an extension of the physical world, where there is relative anonymity, but real-world consequences are still applicable. During the time these two films came out, digital worlds and social spaces were so new that a lot of society did not know what to make of them. Yes, the internet provided people with groundbreaking new ways to connect, but there is still a horror factor in the uncertainty of these non-physical connections. Kiyoshi Kurosawa's 2003 film Bright Future does not use the internet and the newly emerging digital societies as devices. The film instead follows the relationship between the friend of a man who is incarcerated for murder and his estranged father. Though this film does not utilize anxieties of newly emerging forms of technology in the narrative, the presence of the Heisei period's technological advances are felt. Tatsuya Fuji, who plays the estranged father Shin Ichiro, works in an outdated appliance repair shop, with Yuji, played by Joe Odagiri, as his apprentice. Both central characters feel the impact of the lost decade in Japan after the economic boom of the late Showa period and the early Heisei period. Technology continued to evolve, but it also seemed to be leaving behind working-class citizens who felt the worst of the hardship from Japan's economic bubble bursting. As a director, Kurosawa seems to be drawn to telling the stories of people trying to find a sense of community who are considered socially outside of the status quo, or who are not yet fully fledged members of society. Arguably, unbeknownst to him as well as Shunji Iwai, posthumanism philosophy makes a large impact on the thematics of these stories, the most obvious being characters' relationships with the new and emerging technological world. In All About Lily Shushu, the message boards dedicated to Lily are a man-made dimension that can act as a space where a new society can form. This society purely consists of Lily's fans and those familiar with her music. In turn, the internet is becoming an extension of human consciousness with every new post. Scholar N. Catherine Hales compares existing in the time of the posthuman to a colony of bees. The individual is susceptible to self-organization in order to fit into a larger colony, and then from that the colony becomes its own distinct entity capable of demonstrating purposeful behavior. These chat rooms explored in the film as well as in real life are dedicated to a singular thing, with each new participant unknowingly joining the hive. A distinct society that uses the internet as its domain begins to form. Kurosawa's film Pulse uses the idea that ghosts are lost spirits that seek refuge within the internet to use as a temporary space in order to get back into the physical world. These spirits have gone beyond the idea of posthuman by leaving their bodies and seemingly only existing in a technological dimension. On the other hand, the humans in the film can exist inside of both spaces simultaneously, thus allowing them to claim the identity of posthuman. In Kurosawa's other film, Bright Future, posthumanism does not make as big of an impact as in Pulse. However, thematically they are very similar. While Pulse explores the populations that look to the world of the internet to make up for their feelings of isolation, the characters in Bright Future stay stagnant within the physical world, while the rest of the world leaves them behind to form new societies. Despite having access to the ability to connect to virtually anyone in the world, the loneliness epidemic continues to plague modern society well after the Heisei period. These films only documented the beginning stages of what would soon turn into a national crisis for Japan. The aesthetics of each of the films discussed provide the viewer with an idea of what the popular phenomena of creating media centered around isolation and detachment would look like for the groups that they were reflecting. Additionally, viewers living through the experiences being depicted were able to seek comfort in knowing that they are enduring a shared reality and are able to find a way to feel seen by the average audience member. If media can be viewed as a reflection of societal values, then these indie films from the genesis of the age of digital detachment give context to real-world movements happening in the making of a new social group both within the ether and the physical world.